Hey guys, in this video, we're going to buy a brand new domain name. We're going to set up a brand new Cloudflare account. We're going to look at how to get our domain name pointed to our new Cloudflare account. And we're going to take a look at how to get Cloudflare tunnels set up so that we can actually have multiple applications on a single tunnel. So with that said, let's jump in. But first, we've got some bills to pay. So here's a quick message from today's video sponsor. This video is sponsored by Linode. I've been partnered with Linode for quite a while now because it's a great place to host just about anything you could want to host. Need a dedicated space to host an app? Linode has you covered with more than 100 pre-built apps that can be installed with just a couple of clicks. Want to develop an app on your favorite flavor of Linux? Linode has you covered there too, with more than 30 different options to start with. Need to do some pen testing on your own network or app? Install a Kali Linux setup in just a few clicks to get started with testing your own security. You can also host a Docker setup, a Kubernetes cluster, and more with just a few clicks. From hosting a single website to complex multi-cloud deployments, find enterprise-level capabilities like object storage, Kubernetes, and GPUs at a 30 to 50% lower cost than the major cloud providers. Be sure to check out the link in the video description to get $100 in free credit for 60 days to see what you can do with Linode. So the first thing we want to do is actually buy a domain name. Doing this now will kind of save us some time later on, so we're not having to wait quite as long while everything propagates. Now I'm going to use Porkbun. I've been using Porkbun for years. I like working with them. I've worked with them in the past, and I bought all my domain names from them for a while now. So that's what I'm going to use. You can use whatever you'd like to do or whatever you'd like to use. The process will be more or less the same. So if you do decide to use Porkbun, this is what the home screen will look like. And of course, from here, you can search for a domain name. Like if I wanted to, I could just type in dbtech and then leave this on bulk search and just hit enter. And then it will give me all kinds of different options with dbtech in the domain name, basically. And it will kind of build things around that. And here are all of my different options based on what they have available. Once I have selected the one I want, let's scroll down a little bit. There was actually one I saw earlier that I wanted to use. .dev, there we go. So I'm going to come over to here. I'm going to click the plus, and then I can go to checkout. Now here we can see that we're going to register by default for 1 year. We can select multiple years if we want to. Next to that, of course, we can see what our current price is, what it will renew at, and then there's some more options for upsells and things like that. And then here we've got some additional registration requirements. SSL is required for .dev to work. So there's just some things you need to know about whatever extension you decide to go with. They will have any of those additional requirements over here. Over here, you'll also see that you will get Who is Privacy for free. That's something that GoDaddy just started offering and Porkbun has been offering for years. You'll also get, site builder trials and web trials and email trials, and you get all this extra stuff, but that doesn't really apply to us because of what we're going to do with our domain name. We don't need any of this. So our next step would be to click continue, and then under that it says create account /login. We can go ahead and do that. And then, of course, we'll go ahead and get logged in, and then we can complete our purchase. So here we are just a couple of minutes later, and you can see here that we have completed our purchase, and now what we get to do is wait. Well, sort of. So what we're going to do, while these settings are kind of doing their thing in the background, there's a lot of DNS propagation that has to happen when a new domain is purchased. But what we can do while that is happening is actually go over and set up our new Cloudflare account. Okay, so here we are on Cloudflare's homepage, and what we want to do first is come up to the top right where we're going to see sign up right here. And then it's going to ask us for an email address and a password. Go ahead and put that in and click on sign up. So once we've got that, we can go ahead and click on sign up. Okay, so what we want to do next is actually click right here where it says accelerate and protect your website or application. We're going to click on get started. Okay, so what we want to do now is actually enter the URL that we just purchased. We're going to paste that in. We're going to click on add a site. Now, since I've started talking more about Cloudflare on the channel, I've had several people say that, well, they want my credit card information there. This isn't free. Why are you saying this is free? Come down to the bottom, click right here where it says free, and then click on continue. So right now what it's going to do is actually go scan my DNS records. And this actually looks good. I'm actually kind of surprised that this is already showing up. Basically, these are just the default settings that Porkbun enters when you register a domain name. Every different registrar is going to have different entries here. You can just leave this as it is for right now. It's not going to matter. Just go ahead and click on continue. So what it's telling us to do now is actually change our existing name servers. So what we need to do is actually go back to our Porkbun account or wherever you bought your domain and manage the name server settings for your new domain. Okay, so here I am back on Porkbun, and here we can see that dbtech.dev is highlighted. Everything else, of course, is blurred. But what we can do is come over here to where it says details. And once that pops open, we can kind of see what's going on here. Right here, we can see that we've got 4 authoritative name servers right here. We can see authoritative name servers. These are the default name servers that Porkbun uses for their DNS. What we want to do is edit that. And then we want to delete all of those and then come back and copy these and paste them in. And you want to make sure that you do 1 per line. Once you've got that, you click submit. And now we can see that our authoritative name servers are hazel.ns.cloudflare.com and peter.ns.cloudflare.com. So at this point, it's kind of up to Porkbun as far as their processes are concerned with regards to how long it will take for those DNS settings to take effect. So this, as it said there, it could take up to 48 hours. And that's something that a lot of people have issues with, including myself. I'm not a patient person. I want answers now. I want results now. And this is the worst part about buying and setting up a domain name, is the waiting process for all of the DNS to propagate across the internet. That said, now we can go back over to Cloudflare and we can say done, check name servers. And again, right here it says registrars can take up to 24 hours to process name server updates. Porkbun said 48. It's usually less than both of those if I'm being completely honest, but just know that depending on where you buy your domain name, it could take a day or even 2 days for that to happen. So what we want to do next is click on done, check name servers. And then we're going to go ahead and just click on get started. Do we want to have automatic HTTPS rewrites? Absolutely. I think that's very important. We're click save. Always use HTTPS. Again, same answer to that. Yes. We want to go ahead and check that and say save. And then do we want to auto minify anything? No. By default, you don't want this on because it can actually have negative impacts on different types of JavaScript, HTML, CSS, things like that. More often than not, it is going to be a JavaScript issue with truncating things and minimizing things and that sort of stuff. I leave this off by default and turn it on a case-by-case basis as necessary. I don't want to have any of that turned on, so I'm just going to click save. And then you want to use Brotli, which is their compression method. You can turn that on or off depending on what you want to do. I'm just going to leave it on. I'm going to click save. And then I'll click finish. So here it says, complete your name server setup, log into your registrar account, do this, change that. And then again, like I said, it's going to take a little while, up to 24 to 48 hours for that to happen. Again, my experience with Porkbun and Cloudflare is it usually happens within just a couple of hours. So we'll just kind of hang out, we'll wait, and of course, we'll come back when this is ready to go. Also, I guess while you're waiting, now is a good time to actually go back to your email and find the email that Cloudflare sent you to verify your email address. There will be a link in there that you can click and verify your account just to make sure that everything is set up and ready to go. So depending on how patient or impatient you are, you may just want to periodically come back to this page and click on Check Name Servers. And here it's not giving us really any new information here, but if we come back to our homepage, here we can see that our domain is active here. And right now it says, great news, Cloudflare is now protecting your site. So let's actually take a look at that. Let's go over here to DNS. And this is the IP addresses that were set up for the A records when Cloudflare imported the DNS records from Porkbun. So what we can do to actually see if the DNS settings have started taking effect and to make sure that Cloudflare is actually managing our DNS is actually pretty simple. If we come down and do a CMD, so here's our command prompt, and if we ping it, we'll do ping dbtech.dev like so, and we're getting a 104.2190.233 IP address. Now, from my experience, I know that 104 address is Cloudflare. I've been using Cloudflare for more than a decade now. I know that IP address is Cloudflare. However, if it had returned something like a 44.227. whatever our other options are here, we would know that Cloudflare is not currently handling our DNS, and we would need to wait a bit longer. Now, I'm going to be honest, this has all happened in the course of 5 minutes. I didn't have to wait 24 to 48 hours. I was able to get this up and running literally in just a few minutes. Your mileage will probably vary. So with that said, now we actually have Cloudflare managing our DNS. So what we can do if we want to is come over here and click on edit. We can actually delete all of these records. I need to move this over just a little bit. We're going to delete all of these records. None of these matter anymore. Because we're going to end up pointing this domain to our home via a couple of different methods. Now, when I say that we've got a couple of different options on how we can do this, we can just do just regular A records or CNAME records to manually point our subdomains and that sort of thing to our home IP address by clicking on Add Record, coming over here, selecting either A or CNAME, whichever you'd like to do. You might choose, your subdomain, and here we can see that would be demo.dbtech.dev, and then we would put in our home's IP address. Of course, that's not my home IP address. I'm just putting stuff in there for the sake of demonstration there, right? This is how I did things for a long time because I didn't really understand tunnels, if I'm being completely honest. I was fine using something like Nginx Proxy Manager or Traffic. The problem with using something like Nginx Proxy Manager, Traffic, Caddy, whatever, is that you have to open ports 80 and ports 443 on your home network to go from your modem and router to wherever your reverse proxy container is. I don't necessarily like having open ports on my network if I can help it, so I use an alternate method called Cloudflare Tunnel or Zero Trust. So because I don't want to open ports on my network, I'm going to set this up with Cloudflare Zero Trust or Tunnels, whatever you want to call it. So I'm just going to click cancel here. What I want to do is come over here to where it says traffic. I'm going to go to Cloudflare Tunnel right here. And I want to launch Zero Trust Dashboard. This will probably take a minute to load. And now this is the first time we're here. So it's saying, hey, welcome to Zero Trust. We're going to click next. Then you're going to give your team a name. This is kind of just a default setting. I'm going to call this dbtechdev.cloudflareaccess.com. We'll click next. And then again, we've got options for what kind of plan do we want to use here. I'm going to use the free plan because I'm not ever going to have 50 users on my setup here. If you need to, you can kind of do what you need to do with the other plans. I'm just going to go with the free plan because I'm cheap and I don't need all of the extra stuff. So I'm going to click select plan under free and proceed to payment. Okay, so here it is asking for a payment method. This is something I hadn't seen before, or maybe I had spaced. So we'll go ahead and click on add a payment method. Or you can use PayPal, which that's what I'm going to do. So I'm just going to click PayPal and go through that process of getting PayPal attached to my account. Now, look, here's the thing. They're never going to charge you for anything you don't agree to be charged for. If you sign up for any of their extra services, this way they already have a payment method on file. But if all you're using is their free services, they will never charge you for anything. Again, I've been using them for a decade. I'm not shilling for them. They're not paying me for this. This has been my experience with more than a decade of using Cloudflare. So I'm just going to go ahead and set up my payment method via PayPal. Okay, so here we can see that PayPal has been added. Of course, I've blurred my PayPal email address there. And of course, it is going to ask for some more billing information regarding our name, our country, and our zip code. Go ahead and just put that stuff in and then click next. Once you've got all your billing information in, again, they're not going to charge you if you don't use any of their paid services. So I got to reiterate that. We're going to click purchase. At this point, now we're kind of in a place where we can start getting our tunnels set up. So what we can do here is actually click over here where it says access and click on tunnels. You can go through all this other stuff if you'd like to do that, but we're just kind of getting to the nitty gritty here. So we're just going to click on tunnels. And then it says, hey, let's create your first tunnel. So let's do that. Our tunnel name, let's just call it a dbtech.dev, and we'll click on save tunnel. The next thing that we need to do is actually install a connector, some way for our local machine, wherever we are, like in my studio here, your home, your office, wherever. We need to create a way for our local area to connect directly to Cloudflare via a tunnel. Now, you've got some different options here, whether it's Windows, Mac, Debian, Red Hat, or Docker. I like to go the Docker route. If we click this, what we're going to see here is this command. Now, the problem with this command is that if you run this in a terminal window and then close that terminal window, it's going to close down our Docker container. So what we're going to do is we're just going to copy this. I'm going to open a notepad and I'm going to paste that in there. So here is the command that we were given to deploy a Docker container to connect our local server to our Cloudflare Tunnels account, our Zero Trust account. Now, the problem with this command right here is that once we've connected to our server and we run this, if we close our terminal window, it's going to shut down that Docker container. There's a simple fix for that. What we can do is right up here, we can come up to where it says Docker run. Right after run, do space dash D. Basically, that means it's a detached, it's disconnected from the terminal window, meaning that it's not going to shut down when we close the terminal window. That's what we want. We just need to make sure that we add that dash D. I'm not sure why they don't have that in there by default, but they don't, and that's the fix that I have found for my setup. So our next step will be to SSH into our Docker server. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll do SSH root at, okay, so now we've got our terminal window open. We've got our command over here. What I want to do is just copy that. I'm going to minimize it. And then I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to move this over to here so we can kind of see some stuff. Right down here it says connectors. No connectors installed. So we're just going to go ahead and paste that in. We're going to hit enter. I'm going to bring this back over. And now it's going through the process of deploying that new container. We're going to give this a second. And right there is our connector ID. Now, I will need to blur an IP address there. That's fine. But here we can see we've got our version there. We've got everything set up and ready to go. So the next thing that we can do here is actually, well, click the next button. And then we can start setting up our different applications here. We can kind of start connecting to the different containers that we have available on our Docker servers. So let's take a look at that. Okay, so here we are in my Portainer instance for this particular server. Let's actually use pingvin share here. Oh, I should mention we've got Cloudflare right there. That's the one we just deployed. So what we're gonna do is come down to pingvin share, and I'm just gonna click right here. So we open this up in our local IP address and port. Then we're gonna come back to Cloudflare Zero Trust. And now I need to set up a subdomain first, right? So let's just call this pingvin, and we'll do db tech.dev like so. And then we don't need to put in a path because we're not going to put this in any kind of like subdirectory or you know, dbtech.dev / something. This is just going to be pingvin.dbtech.dev. So what we'll do next that we've got that, we're going to come down here, we're going to select HTTP. Now the reason I'm selecting HTTP and not HTTPS is because pingvin does not by default have an SSL built into it. So if it did, we would select HTTPS. Because it doesn't, we're going to use HTTP. Now, what we'll do next is paste in our IP address and our port like so. Now, I've had some people tell me that you can also use the container name. You can also use localhost. There's some different options here. I like to just put out the full thing just to make sure that I'm not missing anything there. So once we've got that, we can click on save. Okay, so here we are. Here's our tunnel. What we're going to do is come over here and click on configure. We're going to go to our public host names. And right here is pingvin.dbtech.dev. We're going to click that. Okay, so just that quickly and easily, we have purchased a domain name. We have set up a Cloudflare account. We have set up Zero Trust. We've attached our domain name to our Cloudflare account. And we've set up a tunnel via Docker that will allow us to remotely access different Docker containers. Now, one of the questions that comes up fairly regularly is this. People want to know how to set up multiple applications on a single tunnel, and it's very, very simple once you see what I'm about to do here. So what we're going to do, we're going to come back to Portainer. We're going to pick a different option here. Tell you what, let's just go with Trago. I was doing some testing with Trago. We're not going to get into Trago in here. I'm just going to show you this. So I'm going to open this up. Here is our IP address and our port. So we're going to come back to here. What we want to do is click on add a public host name page. We're going to call this Trago, again, dbtech.dev, just like before. We're going to say HTTP. We're going to paste this in like so. And then we're going to click on save host name. Now again, here is Pingvin, here is Trago. Those are two separate applications on two separate subdomains, but still on the same tunnel. So what we can do now, click Trago, oops. And there we go. It took just a second. There was a little hiccup there. That happens. Sometimes you just got to reload the page, and there it is. Now we've got trago.dbtech.dev. We've also got pingvin.dbtech.dev. So the other thing you'll notice here is that Trago has an SSL here. Site is secure. Connection is secure. Certificate is valid. There you go. Same thing over here on Pingvin. Again, we've got our padlock there. We've got our secure connection. Our certificate is valid. We're set up and ready to go just that easily. Okay, so we've actually already connected a couple of different applications via a Cloudflare tunnel to our server. So we've got remote access to them from basically wherever. Now the caveat to that, or the kicker to that is, of course, everybody now has access to these domain names because we haven't set up any security on them. Now, I've already made a video about this, but let's just kind of run through what we would do to just quickly set this up, right? So we're gonna come back over to Cloudflare. We're going to go over here to Applications under Access. We're going to add an application. We're going to select Self-Hosted. Our application name, in this case, let's just call it Pingvin, like so. Our application subdomain, again, will be Pingvin, and then dbtech.dev. You can kind of leave all of this as it is if you want to. I always uncheck this, though. Then we're going to click on Next. We're going to add policies here. We're going to call this email address. We'll just call it email. We'll allow our email address. This is all fine. Our selector will be email, and our email will be... Now, here's the cool thing about this. Like, once I save this, in fact, let's just do that. I'm trying to get ahead of myself here. Let's click over here. Let's click Next. And then, nah, that's fine. We don't need to worry about any of this right now. Again, I made a more in-depth video earlier. So let's open a new tab here. Let's do pingvin.db dev. Hey, look at that. I can't access this because I need to put in an email address. So I'm going to go ahead and put my email address in. And then it's going to say, send me a code. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Now, you're going to get this no matter what. Even if that email address isn't available to receive a code, you're still going to get this screen. It's kind of a preventative measure kind of thing so that people can't just keep trying email addresses until they get one. So this is just kind of a little thing that they've got in there. You're always going to see this screen, so I'm gonna move this out of the way. Okay, so almost instantly, I got this email right here, and right here is the code that it gave me, so I'm gonna copy that. Then I'm going to paste that in, just like so, and click sign in. And there we go. So now that I've entered that code, now it's forwarded me to pingvin.dbtech.dev and of course the login page here. So let's expand on our accessibility just a little bit here. We're gonna go back to our email or to our policy, our email policy here that says allow. I'm gonna click edit. So if we take a look at our policy here, of course, we've named our policy email. We can change that if we want to. This was just demonstrative. You can come down here, you can add additional email addresses. We'll just say, like email1 at gmail.com and hit enter, and email2 at gmail.com, whatever, right? You can add as many email addresses to that as you'd like, so that you can give multiple people access to your resources, and all they've got to do is make sure that they've got an email address associated with our rules right here. Now, let's say you didn't want to use email to authenticate or whatever, right? So let's just delete this. Let's go over here to like IP ranges. So let's say you've got a dedicated IP address at home. You're going to put that in here. Whatever the IP address your ISP gave you is what's going to go in here. If you've say got a VPN with a dedicated IP, like I've got through private internet access, link to that in the description down below, you can put that IP address in there. And as long as you're accessing your web assets from the IP addresses that you've put in here, it will just let you access them without any additional authentication needed. Of course, you could, if you wanted to, say they need to be within this IP address range and put in an email address. You can kind of build your own security protocols to make sure that only certain people have access to your resources. Okay, there you go. There's how to buy a domain name, set up a Cloudflare account, point your new domain name to your Cloudflare account, get tunnels set up via Docker, and actually use multiple different Docker containers on a single tunnel. So hopefully this video was helpful. Hopefully you found it informative. If you did, do me a favor, give the video a thumbs up. That really does help me out quite a bit. I would appreciate even just a thumbs up. Maybe some comments down below letting me know what you think about this solution. Like it, hate it, whatever. Let me know in the comment section down below. But I think with that said, I'm going to wrap this up. I want to thank you guys for spending a few minutes of your day with me today, and I'll talk to you in the next video.